The council chamber floated in the silence of space, a massive ring of metal and glass orbiting the neutral planet below. Inside, representatives from 47 different alien species sat in their designated seats, their forms ranging from towering insectoids to floating energy beings. The air hummed with translation devices, turning thousands of languages into something everyone could understand. Captain Jinho Kim stood at the presentation platform, his human hands gripping the edges of the podium a bit too tightly. Next to him, Ambassador Hana Park waited with the patience she had learned over 5 years of diplomatic service. Behind them, a holographic display showed something that made Jinho's stomach turn every time he looked at it. Empty space, void where stars used to be. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," Hana began, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to say. "Humanity brings urgent news from the edge of explored space. Our deep space probes have detected an anomaly, a threat unlike anything in your records." The chamber remained mostly quiet, though a few delegates shifted in their seats. Jinho noticed Councillor Vexithar, the reptilian leader of the Saros Imperium, examining his claws with apparent boredom. Hana pressed a button, and the hologram changed. It showed a timeline of star systems, each one winking out of existence like candles being snuffed. "In the past 8 months, 17 star systems have vanished, not destroyed by war or natural stellar death, simply gone, consumed." Taiho Shin, standing near the back of the human delegation, brought up the next set of data. The hologram now showed what their probes had captured, a massive, writhing darkness that seemed to eat light itself. Within that darkness, shapes moved. Organic shapes, countless and hungry. "We call it the Void Swarm," Jinho said, stepping forward. "Our analysis suggests it's a collective organism, possibly billions of individual creatures working as one. It consumes all matter and energy in its path. Planets, ships, stars, everything." For a moment, the chamber was silent. Then, a sound began. Low at first, then growing louder. Laughter. High Magistrate Olor, the insectoid chairman, clicked his mandibles in amusement. "Fascinating. The humans have brought us a story from their entertainment media, perhaps?" More laughter rippled through the chamber. Vexthar stood, his green scales catching the light. "Captain Kim, Ambassador Park, your species has been part of this council for barely 2 centuries. Many of us have explored the galaxy for thousands of years. Do you truly think we have never encountered dangerous organisms before?" "With respect, Counselor," Hana replied, keeping her voice level. "This is different. The scale, the speed of advancement, the adaptive nature—" "Adaptive nature," Vexthar interrupted, spreading his clawed hands wide. "Young humans, let me educate you. The Saros Imperium has existed for 11,000 years. We have faced world-eaters, stellar parasites, and reality-bending anomalies. We are still here. Your panic is endearing, but unnecessary." Jinho felt his jaw tighten. He had expected skepticism, but not outright mockery. "Counselor, we have probe footage. Real data. Please, at least review—" "We have reviewed it," another delegate interrupted, a floating crystal being that pulsed with blue light. "Your probes are primitive by galactic standards. Your data is questionable. Your interpretation is alarmist." Taiho stepped forward with more evidence, projections of the swarm's movement patterns, calculations of its speed and trajectory. "If it continues at this rate, it will reach council space in less than a year. The nearest inhabited systems will be the Luminari worlds. The Luminari have planetary shields that could withstand a supernova," Olor stated flatly. "I think they can handle some organic anomaly." Hana looked around the chamber, seeing dismissal on every alien face. She had spent years building relationships here, earning respect for humanity's contributions to galactic science and culture. Now she was watching it crumble. "Please," she said, and for the first time, emotion crept into her voice. "We're not asking for panic. We're asking for preparation, joint military exercises, research cooperation, evacuation protocols for frontier worlds." "Evacuation protocols," Vexthar repeated, his voice dripping with contempt. "Tell me, Ambassador, is this perhaps a scheme to gain military funding? To expand your species' armed forces under the guise of responding to a manufactured threat?" "That's not—" Jinho started, but Vexithar cut him off with a sharp gesture. "Humanity has always been paranoid. It's in your history. You fought each other for thousands of years over resources, territory, beliefs. Now you're alone in the galaxy, small, young, afraid. So you create monsters to fight." The chamber erupted in discussion, most of it agreeing with Vexthar. Jinho looked at Hana, who had gone very pale. They had prepared for doubt, for questions, even for some resistance. But this complete dismissal, this casual arrogance, they hadn't prepared for this. Finally, High Magistrate Olor called for order. "The Galactic Council will now vote on the human proposal for emergency protocols and joint defensive preparations." The vote was quick. 43 against, 4 in favor. Only humanity and 3 minor species who had always been friendly to Earth voted yes. "The motion fails catastrophically," Olor declared. "Furthermore, this council issues a formal warning to Earth: cease spreading panic among galactic populations. Your deep space monitoring in this matter is to be discontinued immediately. Consider this a sanction for alarmist behavior unbecoming of a council member." Jinho felt something break inside him. Not anger exactly, though that was there too. Something colder. A realization that words wouldn't work here. That evidence wasn't enough. That no matter what humanity said or showed, these ancient races would never listen to the young upstarts from a backwater solar system. As the council session ended and delegates filed out, several approached the human delegation, none to apologize or reconsider. Instead, they offered condescending advice. "Perhaps study more before making such claims. Your species will learn wisdom with time. Try not to embarrass yourselves again." Vexithar paused as he passed Jinho. "A word of advice, Captain. In the galaxy, experience matters. We have survived for millennia because we don't jump at shadows. You should learn this." Jinho met his eyes and spoke quietly. "And what if the shadow is real, Counselor? What if it's already moving toward you, and by the time you stop laughing, it's too late?" Vexthar's expression didn't change. "Then we will handle it, as we always have, without requiring assistance from frightened children." He walked away, leaving the human delegation standing alone in the emptying chamber. Hana put a hand on Jinho's shoulder. "What do we do now?" Jinho looked at the hologram still displaying behind them, showing the advancing darkness consuming stars. "We go home," he said, "and we prepare, because when that shadow reaches them, they're going to wish they had listened." Taiho gathered their data chips, his face grim. "They'll call us warmongers." "Let them," Jinho replied. "Better to be called names and survive than be polite and dead." The 3 humans left the council chamber, walking through corridors where other species whispered and laughed behind their backs. Earth's warning had been delivered and rejected. Now humanity would stand alone. 8 months had passed since the Galactic Council laughed at Earth's warning. 8 months of humanity working day and night, while the rest of the galaxy went about their business as usual. Admiral Yuna Choi stood on the bridge of the orbital defense station Unity, watching construction crews finish the last of the Bastion network platforms. Each platform bristled with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Experimental designs that had burned through Earth's military budget like fire through paper. "Admiral, the Mars delegation is requesting another meeting," her aide said. Yuna sighed. The meetings never ended. Everyone wanted to know why 40% of humanity's economy was being poured into military preparation, why factories that made consumer goods now made weapons, why agricultural worlds were building bunkers instead of new farms. "Tell Day One I'll speak with him after the shift change," she said. On the view screen, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the darkness. Somewhere down there, billions of people were scared. They had heard the Council's rejection, seen the news broadcasts calling humanity paranoid and dangerous. Trade with other species had slowed to a trickle. Economic sanctions were being discussed. Some human colonies near alien space reported harassment, but Earth's government had made its choice: prepare or perish. Across the solar system on Titan, Dr. Sung Lee hadn't slept properly in weeks. His research station was cold, buried under kilometers of ice, perfect for the kind of work that needed absolute isolation. Around him, dozens of scientists studied the probe data frame by frame, trying to understand what the void swarm actually was. "It's not just eating matter," Sung muttered, adjusting his microscope. "It's learning from it. Every world it consumes, it adapts. Gets smarter, faster." His assistant, a young researcher named Jiwon, brought up comparative analysis. The swarm that hit the first system moved in simple patterns. The swarm that hit the seventh system used coordinated flanking maneuvers. "It's evolving." Sung felt cold that had nothing to do with the temperature. "Then we need to evolve faster." On the colony ship Incheon, Captain Minho Kang oversaw the evacuation of humanity's furthest outpost. The station orbited a gas giant near the border of Council space, home to 3,000 humans who had built their lives mining rare elements from the planet's moons. "Captain, the Valorian neighbors are protesting our evacuation," his first officer reported. "They say we're being cowards and making them look bad." Minho looked at the Valorian station visible through the viewport, a graceful structure of bioorganic materials that housed a species who prided themselves on courage and honor. "Send them our probe data one more time. Tell them they're welcome to stay, but we're not risking human lives on pride." "They've already said they won't look at our data, sir. They called it human propaganda." "Then we leave them to their fate," Minho said quietly. "Load the last transport. We're departing in 6 hours." The evacuation was happening across all human frontier space. Thousands of people being moved to safer systems, abandoning homes and businesses and dreams. Every single one of them angry, scared, but alive. Back on Earth, Sora Nam led the Emergency Council meeting in Geneva. Holographic representatives from every human world attended, and the mood was tense. "Food production is down 18%. The agricultural minister reported. "We've converted too much farmland to military infrastructure." "Unemployment in manufacturing sectors is up," the labor minister added. "Traditional jobs are gone. People are angry." "Let them be angry," Sora said firmly. "Better angry and breathing than happy and dead. We'll deal with economic recovery after we survive." "If we survive," someone muttered. Sora stood up, her voice sharp. "No, not if. When. We will survive because we're taking this seriously while everyone else laughs. History will remember us as the ones who saw danger and acted, not the ones who ignored it and died." In deep space, Captain Hyun Bae commanded the scout ship Sejong, patrolling the edge of monitored space. His crew was small, just 20 people, but their mission was critical: watch the swarm and report any changes. "Captain, we're picking up something," his sensor officer called out. Hyun moved to the console. The readings made his blood run cold. "The Luminari system. It's gone dark." "Sir, that's impossible. The Luminari have 50 billion people, advanced shields, a massive fleet." "Impossible or not, there's nothing there anymore. Just empty space." Hyun immediately opened a channel to Earth. "Unity Command, this is Sejong. The swarm has reached Council space. The Luminari system is gone. I repeat, gone. 50 billion souls vanished. The response came quickly. Admiral Yuna's voice, tight with controlled emotion. Confirmed, Sejong. Return to defensive perimeter. All scout ships pull back to safe distance. As Hyun's ship turned toward home, he looked back at the empty space where an entire civilization had existed just days ago. The Galactic Council's first casualty. They had ignored humanity's warning, and now billions had paid the price. The news spread through galactic space like wildfire. The Luminari were gone, one of the Council's founding members erased in 72 hours. Suddenly, humanity's warnings didn't seem so funny anymore. Jin-Ho Kim, back on Earth after the failed Council session, watched the emergency broadcasts from alien worlds. Panic, confusion, denial. Some species still insisted the Luminary's disappearance was unexplained, nothing to do with humanity's mythical swarm. But then came the second system, then the third. The swarm wasn't stopping, it was accelerating. His communication console lit up, incoming messages from the Galactic Council, from Counselor Vexthar personally. Jin-Ho looked at the waiting messages for a long moment, then deleted them without reading. "Sir, shouldn't you respond?" Taeho asked. "They had 8 months to respond to us," Jin-Ho said coldly. "They can wait." More messages came. Dozens of alien species, some apologizing, some demanding humanity share its defensive technology, some still trying to save face by suggesting cooperation rather than admission of error. Yunbi Cho, coordinating Earth's rescue operations, faced an impossible choice. Human ships were receiving distress calls from doomed worlds, millions of aliens begging for evacuation, but Earth's ships were needed to defend human space. "We can't save them all," her deputy said. "If we spread our forces too thin—" "We save who we can," Yunbi interrupted. "Not because they deserve it, not because they listen to us, but because it's the right thing to do." Human rescue ships jumped into dying systems, pulling out refugees while the swarm advanced. Many of those refugees were the same aliens who had mocked Earth's warning months before. Some apologized. Some still blamed humanity for not preparing better. The Saros Imperium, proud and ancient, finally mobilized their famous war fleet, 10,000 ships, the largest military force in galactic history. Vexithar himself commanded from the flagship, broadcasting defiance across all channels. Jin-Ho watched the battle feed with Hana and Taeho. The Soros fleet met the swarm head-on, weapons blazing. For an hour, it looked like they might win. Their ships were powerful, their tactics refined over millennia. Then the swarm adapted. 4 hours after first contact, the Soros fleet was gone. 10,000 ships, millions of soldiers. Vexthar's last transmission was a simple message to Earth. "Help us." The Galactic Council convened again, emergency session, everyone present. High Magistrate Olor addressed the chamber, his mandibles no longer clicking with amusement. "We request immediate military cooperation from Earth. All previous sanctions are lifted. We ask humanity to share their defensive preparations and technology." The human delegation seat was empty. Earth had sent only a recorded message. Jin-Ho's face appeared on the view screen. "You had 8 months," he said simply. 8 months to prepare together. 8 months where we could have pooled resources, shared knowledge, built defenses across the galaxy. Instead, you laughed. You sanctioned us. You called us paranoid and dangerous. Now you face the consequences alone. Just as you forced us to prepare alone. "But we will not abandon you entirely," Jin-Ho continued, "because unlike you, we understand what it means to be responsible members of a galactic community. Human rescue ships will evacuate civilians where possible. But our military technology, our defensive strategies, our hard-won preparations, those remain ours. You wanted us to stand alone. Now you'll see what humans can do when you force us to." The message ended. The council chamber erupted in chaos. The darkness came faster than anyone expected. Captain Hyun Bae watched from the bridge of his scout ship as another world died. The planet had been beautiful once, covered in purple forests and silver oceans. Home to the Kethri people, a peaceful species known for their philosophy and art. Now it was just a blackened husk, stripped of all life, all matter, all hope. "How many is that?" his weapons officer asked quietly. 12 systems in 3 weeks, Hyun replied. "At this rate, the swarm will reach the core worlds in 2 months. His communications officer suddenly straightened. "Captain, incoming priority message. It's from Counselor Vexthar himself." Hyun raised an eyebrow. The proud reptilian leader who had mocked humanity was now calling them directly. "Put it through." Vexithar's face appeared on the screen. He looked different from the arrogant figure at the council chamber. His scales were dull, his eyes haunted. "Captain Bae, I am transmitting my request directly to any human vessel that will listen. The Saros Imperium requests military assistance from Earth. We have lost 60% of our territory. Our people are dying. We need help." There was silence on the bridge. Every human present remembered the council session, remembered the laughter, the dismissal, the contempt. "Counselor," Hyun said carefully, "I am only a scout ship captain. You need to contact Earth's military command directly." "I have tried," Vexthar said, and for the first time his voice cracked. "They do not respond. Please, I am begging. However humanity wants to punish us for our arrogance, understand that billions of innocent people are dying. Children who never laughed at your warnings. Families who never attended council sessions. They don't deserve this." Hyun felt the weight of that truth. "I'll forward your message to Admiral Choi personally. That's all I can promise." "Thank you," Vexthar said, and the transmission ended. On Unity Station, Admiral Yuna Choi received hundreds of such messages every hour, desperate pleas from species who had ignored Earth's warnings. Some apologized. Some still tried to give orders, as if humanity owed them obedience. Some offered technology, resources, anything in exchange for help. "Admiral, the Arathi Republic has offered full access to their quantum drive technology," her communications officer reported. "Noted," Yuna said. "Add it to the list. The Fenrin Collective is offering territorial concessions, 3 entire systems near human space." Noted. "And there's another message from Vexthar. He's asking to speak with you personally." Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "Put him through. Private channel." Vexthar's image appeared, and Yuna was startled by how diminished he looked. The powerful counselor who had commanded respect across the galaxy now looked defeated. "Admiral Choi," he began, "I will not waste your time with apologies. Words cannot undo what I said, what the council did. But I am asking, no, I am begging for humanity's help, not for me, for the billions who are dying." "Why should we?" Yuna asked bluntly. "Your fleet laughed when we showed you the evidence. Your council sanctioned us for trying to save lives. You had 8 months to prepare. You chose mockery instead." "You are right," Vexthar said simply. "We were fools. Arrogant, ancient fools who thought our age meant wisdom. We were wrong. Completely, catastrophically wrong. And now my people are paying the price for my failure." Yuna studied him. There was no pride left in the old reptilian's face, only grief and desperate hope. "What makes you think humans are any better equipped to fight this thing?" "Because you took it seriously," Vexithar replied. "Because while we laughed, you prepared. Because you saw the danger and acted regardless of what anyone else thought. That is wisdom. That is strength. The Saros Imperium has existed for 11,000 years, Admiral. We have seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. And in all that time, I have never seen courage like humanity's. Courage to stand alone. Courage to be right when everyone calls you wrong. Yuna felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness exactly, but something close to understanding. I need to discuss this with Earth's government. No promises. That is more than I deserve, Vexthar said. Thank you. Across human space, the debate raged. Rescue Coordinator Yunbi Cho argued passionately for expanded evacuation efforts. We can't save everyone, but we can save millions. Isn't that worth something? Others disagreed. We barely have enough resources to defend our own worlds. Every ship we send to alien space is one less ship defending Earth. Dr. Sung Lee provided critical new information. His research team had finally cracked the swarm's biology. It's a hive organism, but more sophisticated than anything we've encountered. Each creature shares information with the collective. Every world it consumes makes it smarter. If we don't stop it soon, it will become unstoppable. How soon? Someone asked. Weeks, maybe less. The emergency council met. Soranam listened to arguments from every side. Military commanders wanted to conserve forces. Diplomats urged cooperation with surviving council species. Scientists presented evidence that the swarm was accelerating. Finally, Sora made the decision. We helped them, not because they deserve it, not because they apologized, but because if we don't, the swarm will consume the entire galaxy, including us. We fight together, or we die separately. The announcement went out to galactic space. Earth would provide military assistance. Human defensive technology would be shared with surviving council species. But in return, there would be complete cooperation, no arguments, and no questioning of human tactics. The response was overwhelming. Species that had barely acknowledged humanity's existence now pledged total support. Ancient rivals agreed to fight side by side under human coordination. The galaxy was finally united, but only because the alternative was extinction. Minji Ro, a communications officer on Unity Station, suddenly detected something in the swarm's movements. Admiral, the swarm is splitting. It's forming multiple fronts. Yuna studied the tactical display. The swarm was dividing into dozens of separate fleets, each heading toward a different section of galactic space. It's trying to overwhelm us, attack everywhere at once so we can't concentrate our defenses. How do we fight something that big? Someone asked. The same way humans have always fought, Yuna replied. Smart, not big. We can't match it in size or strength, so we don't try. We use guerrilla tactics. Hit and run. Strike where it's weak. Retreat before it adapts. News came in of more fallen systems. The Korthi homeworld gone. The Selenite colonies consumed. The Frax mining worlds emptied. With each loss, the galactic population shrank. Refugees flooded into whatever safe zones remained. Human rescue ships, led by Yunbi's coordination, pulled survivors from the edge of advancing swarm fleets. Sometimes they arrived just in time. Sometimes they arrived just minutes too late and could only watch as another world died. Captain Minho Kong's colony ship became a refugee transport. His holds, designed for 3,000 colonists, now carried 15,000 beings from a dozen different species. The conditions were cramped, the resources stretched, but no one complained. They were alive. Among the refugees was a group of Sauros civilians. One of them, an elderly female, approached Minho one day. You are human, yes? I am, Minho confirmed. My family attended the council session where your people warned us. We laughed. She looked down at her clawed hands. My son died defending our homeworld. My daughter is lost somewhere in the evacuation chaos. I laughed at the people trying to save us. Minho didn't know what to say. Finally, he settled on the truth. I'm sorry for your losses. No one deserved this. You have every right to hate us, she continued, to leave us to die, but you are here, saving us. Why? Minho considered the question. Because that's what humans do. We remember injustice, yes. We remember being mocked and dismissed and sanctioned, but we also remember that we're all just people trying to survive, and maybe that's more important than pride. The elderly Saros reached out and gently touched his hand. Your species is young, Captain. But perhaps the galaxy needed young eyes to see what ancient ones had missed. In the council chamber on Axis Prime, High Magistrate Olor convened what remained of the Galactic Council. 17 races had been completely destroyed. 23 more were partially consumed. Only 7 remained intact, and they survived only because human forces had established defensive perimeters around their core worlds. The Galactic Council formally recognizes Earth's military authority in this crisis, Olor announced. All surviving forces will operate under human command. Does anyone object? Silence. The same delegates who had laughed at humanity's warning now looked to them as their only hope of survival. Jinho Kim attended this session, standing at the podium where he had been mocked months before. He looked at the diminished council, at the fear in every alien face. Humanity accepts this responsibility, he said quietly, not because we want power, not because we seek revenge, but because someone has to lead, and we're the ones who prepared. The galaxy ignored us until it was almost too late. Now you'll see what humans can do when we fight, not just for survival, but for each other. 2 months after the swarm reached council space, 1/3 of the galaxy was dark. But for the first time since the invasion began, the tide was starting to turn. Dr. Sung Lee stood in his laboratory on Titan, exhausted but triumphant. Around him, his team celebrated quietly. They had done it. After months of research, countless failures, and dozens of dead ends, they had finally cracked the swarm's weakness. It's beautiful, Sung muttered, looking at the microscopic organism on his screen. Deadly, but beautiful. The breakthrough had come from studying Earth's most extreme environments. Deep ocean vents where no sunlight reached, volcanic chambers where temperatures could melt metal, radiation-soaked wastelands where nothing should live. Yet life persisted in all these places, adapting to conditions that would kill most organisms instantly. The key was extremophile bacteria, modified and weaponized. The nanotechnology didn't kill the swarm creatures directly. Instead, it disrupted their ability to communicate with each other, breaking the hive mind that made them so effective. Individual swarm creatures without collective intelligence are just animals, Sung explained to Admiral Yuna via holocall. Dangerous animals, yes, but manageable. They attack each other. They forget their objectives. They become vulnerable. How do we deploy it? Yuna asked. That's the hard part. We need to get the payload directly into a swarm cluster. Deep penetration, right into the heart of their formation. It's a suicide mission for any ship that tries. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Let me worry about that. You just get that weapon ready for field testing. The first test came 3 days later. Captain Seok Han piloted the experimental ship Guanghwamun, a small, fast vessel designed for one purpose: penetration strikes. His crew was volunteer only, 12 people who understood they might not come back. Target is the swarm cluster near the Helion system, Seok reported, his hands steady on the controls despite his racing heart. Beginning attack run! The Guanghwamen streaked toward the swarm at maximum speed. Around them, space was filled with the writhing black mass of millions of creatures. They sensed the ship, turned toward it, began to converge. Weapons range in 10 seconds, his tactical officer called out. Hold steady, Seok commanded. We need to get closer. The swarm engulfed them, blotting out the stars. Creatures slammed against the shields, trying to tear through the hull. Alarms screamed. Someone was praying quietly in Korean. Now, Seok shouted. They fired the weapon, a cluster of missiles containing Dr. Sung's biotechnology. The missiles penetrated deep into the swarm before detonating, spreading the modified bacteria in a massive cloud. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the swarm began to writhe. Creatures that had moved with perfect coordination started attacking each other. The hive mind was breaking down, replaced by individual panic and confusion. "It's working!" someone shouted. Seok didn't celebrate yet. "Get us out of here! Full reverse!" The Guanghua Moon punched back through the confused swarm and escaped into clear space. Behind them, the swarm cluster tore itself apart. News of the successful test spread quickly. For the first time in months, hope flickered across human and alien forces alike. They had a weapon that worked. Admiral Yuna immediately put together a strike force. Not one massive fleet. That would be too easy for the swarm to track and surround. Instead, dozens of small, fast ships would hit multiple swarm clusters simultaneously across different systems. "We learned this from Earth's history," Jinho explained to the assembled alien commanders. "Guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics. You don't fight a giant by standing still and trading blows. You move, strike, retreat, strike again from a different angle." Counselor Vexthar, now serving as an advisor to human command, studied the tactical plans. "This goes against everything we were taught. The Saros doctrine has always been overwhelming force applied directly." "And how did that work out?" Jinho asked, not unkindly. Vexthar grimaced. "Point taken." The strikes began. Human ships led the way, but they weren't alone. Surviving Council forces learned the new tactics quickly. The Valorian warriors, who had mocked humanity's evacuation months ago, now fought alongside them with fierce determination. The crystalline praxis provided sensor support. The Fenrin contributed their knowledge of swarm movement patterns. It was working. System by system, the swarm was being pushed back. Not destroyed, that would take more than they had, but contained, confused, weakened. Ground Commander Quan Park led the defense of worlds that couldn't be evacuated in time. His specialty was delaying actions, holding territory just long enough for civilians to escape. It was brutal work, often ending with desperate last stands. On the colony world of New Kyoto, Quan's forces dug in to defend the evacuation ships. The swarm came in waves, thousands of creatures flooding across the landscape. Human soldiers fought alongside alien volunteers, holding the line while ships lifted off behind them. "Last transport is away," his second-in-command reported. "All forces, fighting retreat to the secondary positions," Quan ordered. "We're not done yet." They fell back slowly, making the swarm pay for every meter of ground. The creatures were individual now, thanks to the bioweapon deployed earlier, but they were still deadly. Quan lost good people holding that line. But when the last human soldier lifted off, they had saved 2 million civilians who would otherwise have died. The coordination between human and alien forces grew stronger every day. Old prejudices died quickly when you were fighting for survival together. A Saros warrior would cover a human soldier's retreat. A human medic would treat alien wounded without hesitation. Species that had barely spoken to each other now shared rations and battle plans. Captain Jinho Kim coordinated the overall strategy from Unity Station. Hundreds of operations ran simultaneously, each one carefully timed to keep the swarm off balance. Sleep became a luxury he couldn't afford. Food was whatever someone put in his hand between briefings. Taiho Shin, his trusted analyst, noticed his friend's exhaustion. "Jinho, you need rest. You'll collapse." "I'll rest when we win," Jinho replied, studying another tactical display. "And if we lose, then I'll rest permanently, so it won't matter." The swarm was adapting, though. It always adapted. The bioweapon that had worked perfectly at first became less effective as the swarm evolved resistance. Dr. Sung's team worked frantically to develop new variants, but it was a race they were slowly losing. "It learns from every encounter," Sung reported during a strategy session. "Every time we use the weapon, it studies it. We might have 3, maybe 4 more variants before it becomes completely immune." "Then we need to find its heart," Admiral Yuna said. "Every organism has a central point, a brain, a queen, something that coordinates everything else. If we can find and destroy that, the rest collapses." Deep space reconnaissance ships scoured the edge of explored space, searching for the swarm's origin point. It was dangerous work. Many ships never returned, but slowly, piece by piece, they built a picture of the swarm's structure. It was Captain Hyun Bae who found it. His scout ship Sejong, pushing deeper into swarm territory than anyone had dared, detected something massive at the galaxy's edge. Not just another cluster, but something enormous, a nexus. "I'm looking at a structure the size of a small moon," Hyun reported, his voice shaking slightly. "It's organic but complex. Millions of neural pathways. This is it. This is the brain." The information reached Unity Station within hours. Jinho, Yuna, and the surviving council members studied the data. The Nexus was deep in swarm territory, surrounded by millions of creatures. Any ship approaching it would be torn apart long before getting in weapon range. "We need a full assault," one alien commander suggested. "Every ship we have, hit it simultaneously." "That's exactly what it wants," Jinho countered. "It's defended because it's expecting that. We need to think differently." Yuna studied the Nexus's location, comparing it to swarm movement patterns. "Look at this. The Nexus doesn't move. It stays at the galaxy's edge, sending out orders. It's powerful, but it's also trapped by its own size. So we can't get to it with a fleet," Vexthar said slowly. "But a small strike force might slip through while the main fleet distracts the defenses." Jinho nodded. "A suicide run. Fast ships, experienced crews, carrying the most powerful variant of the bioweapon we have. They get to the Nexus, deploy the weapon directly into its core, and hope they can escape before it explodes." The room was silent. Everyone understood what he was describing. The crew making that run would have almost no chance of survival. "I'll lead it," Seok Han said immediately. "The Guanghuaman already proved it can penetrate swarm formations." "You'll need support ships," Yuna said. "Volunteers only. Make that very clear." Within a day, they had their strike team. 15 ships, 200 people, all volunteers. Most were human, but there were alien crew members too. A Valorian pilot who had lost her entire family, a Praxis sensor operator who wanted revenge, a young Sauros weapons officer who had grown up hearing stories of the weak humans. They trained for a week, practicing coordination, memorizing the approach patterns, preparing the final variant of the bioweapon. Dr. Sung personally checked every canister, ensuring maximum potency. "This is it," Sung told Seok. "The last variant will have time to develop. After this, the swarm will be completely immune. Make it count." Seok gripped the scientist's shoulder. "We will. And when we succeed, humanity will remember that a man from Titan saved the galaxy with bacteria." The night before the mission, Jinho walked through Unity Station's observation deck. Earth hung below, peaceful and beautiful. So many people down there who had no idea how close they had come to extinction, how close they still were. Vexthar found him there. The old reptilian looked out at Earth with an expression Jinho couldn't quite read. "Magnificent world," Vexthar said quietly. "I should have visited it when you first invited the council. Perhaps if I had seen it, seen your people, I would have listened." "Perhaps," Jinho agreed. "Win or lose tomorrow, humanity has already proven something important. That age doesn't equal wisdom. That experience can become arrogance. that sometimes the newest voice is the one that sees most clearly. Vexithar turned to face him. I have lived 800 years, Captain Kim. I thought I had seen everything. But you and your people taught this old warrior that there are still new lessons to learn. Jinho extended his hand. After a moment, Vexithar clasped it. If we survive this, Jinho said, things are going to change in the galaxy. They already have, Vexithar replied. The strike force assembled at the edge of human space, 15 ships that represented the galaxy's last hope. Captain Siak Han stood on the bridge of the Guanghua running through final system checks. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, born of knowing what lay ahead. All ships reporting ready, his communications officer announced. Good, Siak replied. Today we end this. Admiral Yuna Choi watched from Unity Station as the strike force prepared to depart. The main fleet, comprising human and alien vessels, would launch simultaneously, hitting swarm clusters across multiple systems to draw attention away from the real target. It's a good plan, Counselor Vexithar said, standing beside her. It's the only plan, Yuna corrected. And it has to work. The strike force jumped into hyperspace, leaving the safety of defensive perimeters behind. Each jump took them deeper into swarm territory, where the darkness was so complete that stars themselves seemed afraid to shine. On the bridge of his command ship, Jinho coordinated the diversionary attacks. Dozens of battles erupted simultaneously across galactic space. The swarm, still intelligent enough to respond to threats, began pulling forces away from the Nexus to defend its conquered territory. It's working, Taiho reported. Swarm movement shows major redeployment. Tell all fleet commanders to keep the pressure on, Jinho ordered. We need to buy the strike force every second we can. In deep space, Sayok's squadron emerged from their final jump. Before them lay the swarm nexus, exactly as reconnaissance had described. It was massive, a writhing moon-sized mass of organic matter that pulsed with sickly light. Neural pathways crisscrossed its surface, glowing with the collective intelligence of billions of swarm creatures. Sweet ancestors, someone whispered. Scan for defenses, Siak commanded, forcing himself to focus. The tactical display lit up with red markers. Thousands of swarm creatures surrounded the Nexus in protective formations. Even with the main force distracted, this was still overwhelming. We're not getting through that in one piece, his tactical officer said. We don't need to get everyone through, Sayok replied quietly. We need to get the weapon through. Plot attack vectors, maximum speed, randomized patterns, make them chase us. The 15 ships split into 3 groups and accelerated toward the Nexus. Immediately, the swarm defenders reacted, flowing toward them like dark water. The battle was chaos. Ships weaved between swarm clusters, firing weapons to clear paths, taking hits that made their shields scream. One ship exploded, then another. Siak watched good people die and forced himself to keep moving forward. Shield generators at 30%, his engineer called out. Doesn't matter, keep going. They pushed deeper, using every trick of human piloting to stay ahead of the swarm. Other ships were still with them, 8 now, then 7, then 5. Each loss hurt, but each loss bought the survivors more distance. We're in range, the tactical officer shouted. All remaining ships, form on me, Sayok ordered. Concentrate fire on the Nexus's center. We need to open it up for weapon deployment. The 5 surviving ships poured everything they had into the Nexus. Energy beams and missiles tore into the organic surface, creating a massive wound that exposed the glowing neural core beneath. That's our target, Siak said. Prepare the bioweapon. His weapons officer activated the payload, dozens of specially designed missiles loaded with Dr. Sung's final variant. Each one contained enough of the modified bacteria to disrupt the hive mind of millions of creatures. Ready to fire on your command, Captain, Siak took a breath. This was the moment. Everything humanity had sacrificed, every warning they had given, every life lost in the fighting. It all came down to this. Fire! The missiles streaked toward the Nexus, but before they could reach their target, the swarm defenders crashed into the strike force with overwhelming numbers. Ships were torn apart, shields collapsing under the assault. Aboard the Guanghuaman, alarms blared. Hull breach on decks 3 and 4, life support failing, shield generators offline. Through the chaos, Siak saw the missiles falling short. The swarm was intercepting them, destroying them before they could deliver their payload. "We need to get closer," he said. "Ramming speed." "Sir, that's suicide." "So is failure, do it." The Guanghuaman surged forward, burning the last of its fuel reserves. Swarm creatures covered the hull, tearing through metal and systems. Half the crew was already dead. On Unity Station, Tai-Ho monitored the strike force's telemetry. "Admiral, we're losing contact. Ships are going dark." Yuna felt her chest tighten. "Keep trying to raise them." In the command center, Jin-Ho watched the tactical display. The dots representing the strike force were winking out one by one. He had sent those people to their deaths. He had asked them to sacrifice everything. "Captain Kim," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission. It's from Tai-Ho Shin." Jin-Ho looked up sharply. "Tai-Ho's here with me." "No, sir. The other Tai-Ho Shin. The one on the Guanghuaman." Jin-Ho's blood went cold. He hadn't known. Tai-Ho had volunteered for the strike force and never told him. The transmission came through, audio only, broken by static. "Jin-Ho, if you're hearing this, means I'm about to do something stupid. Someone has to deliver the weapon manually. Automated systems are failing. Sayok is getting us close, but we need a person to stay behind and trigger the detonation." "Tai-Ho, no," Jin-Ho whispered. "Remember when we met at the academy? You asked why I joined the military. I said because someone has to stand between evil and the people we love. This is that moment, brother. This is why we serve." Static overwhelmed the transmission for a moment. When it cleared, Tai-Ho's voice was calmer. "Tell my family I was proud to be human. Tell them we weren't afraid. Tell them humanity keeps its promises." The transmission ended. On the Guanghuamun, Siak made the final approach to the Nexus. The ship was dying around him, systems failing, hull breached in a dozen places. Of his original crew, only 3 remained alive, and they were preparing to evacuate in the single remaining escape pod. "Captain, you should come with us," one urged. "Someone needs to keep this bird steady for Tai-Ho," Sayok replied. "Go. Tell them we did it." The escape pod launched as the Guanghuamun plunged into the wound they had created in the Nexus's surface. Tai-Ho, wearing an EVA suit and carrying the bioweapon payload, moved through the dying ship toward the deployment bay. The Nexus's interior was like nothing from any nightmare. Organic walls pulsed with alien life. Neural pathways the size of buildings transmitted information across the hive mind. He could feel the intelligence around him, vast and hostile, and aware of his presence. Tai-Ho reached the deployment point, a place where the neural pathways converged. He manually armed the bioweapon canisters, setting them for maximum dispersal. "For Earth," he said quietly. "For humanity. For everyone who warned them and wasn't heard." He activated the trigger. The bioweapon exploded outward, modified bacteria spreading through the Nexus's neural network at incredible speed. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The hive mind, which had coordinated billions of swarm creatures across thousands of light years, began to fragment. Tai-Ho felt the Nexus scream, a psychic wail that had no sound but still tore through his mind. Then the organic walls around him started to collapse. From Unity Station, Yuna watched the sensor readings with desperate hope. "The Nexus, it's breaking apart. Energy readings are falling. The neural network is collapsing. Across galactic space, swarm creatures suddenly lost coordination. They attacked each other, fled in random directions, or simply stopped moving altogether. The hive mind that had made them unstoppable was gone, leaving only mindless organisms. Jinho stood frozen, watching the tactical display show the cascade failure spreading through the swarm. They had won. They had actually won. But the cost? "Any survivors from the strike force?" he asked, his voice hoarse. 3 escape pods recovered so far. Captain Seok Han is confirmed among the survivors. But Captain, I'm sorry. Taiho's suit telemetry flatlined 2 minutes ago. Jinho closed his eyes. His friend. His brother in everything but blood. Gone. The victory celebrations began almost immediately. Across human and alien space, people rejoiced. The nightmare was over. The swarm was defeated, but Jinho couldn't join them. Not yet. The reformed Galactic Council convened 1 week later on Axis Prime. The chamber, which had once held 47 species, now seated only 30. 17 races had been completely destroyed. Billions dead. Entire civilizations erased. High Magistrate Olor, looking older than his ancient years, addressed the assembly. The Galactic Council formally recognizes humanity's contribution to our survival. We offer Earth a permanent seat of honor and leadership in the new galactic order. Ambassador Hannah Park stood to accept on humanity's behalf. She looked at the assembled delegates, remembering the day they had laughed at Earth's warning. "We don't need honor," she said quietly. "We need you to listen next time someone raises a warning. That's all we ask." Counselor Vexthar stood as well, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Let it be recorded that humanity saved us, not through superior firepower or ancient knowledge, but through vigilance, preparation, and courage. They saw what we refused to see. They stood alone when we mocked them, and when we finally asked for help, they came. The Council voted unanimously to establish new protocols for threat assessment. Never again would warnings be dismissed simply because they came from a younger species. Never again would arrogance override caution. Admiral Yuna supervised the dismantling of the Bastion network. The massive defensive platforms had served their purpose. Now they would be converted to help rebuild the shattered worlds. Dr. Sung returned to his laboratory on Titan, exhausted but satisfied. His modified bacteria had saved the galaxy, born from studying Earth's most extreme environments. Sometimes, he reflected, being the new species meant seeing solutions others had overlooked. Captain Minho's colony ship Incheon returned to the frontier, carrying the first wave of beings, human and alien, who would rebuild what had been lost. The colonies they established would be different, mixed settlements where species learned to live and work together. On Earth, memorials were erected in every city. The names of those who died stretched on for miles. Taiho Shin's name was carved alongside Seok Han's crew, the pilots who never returned, the rescue workers who died saving strangers, and the civilians caught in the swarm's path. Jinho attended the dedication ceremony for Taiho's memorial. He placed a hand on the cold stone and whispered, "We did it, brother. We kept our promise." 6 months after the war ended, a monument was unveiled on Axis Prime in the council chamber. It listed every being who died fighting the swarm, regardless of species. At the base, an inscription in every galactic language read, "They warned us. They saved us. We will remember." Beneath that, in Korean first and then translated, "Until the last moment, humanity stood ready. When the galaxy laughed, we prepared. When they called for help, we answered. This is what it means to be human." Jinho stood before the monument alongside Hana, Yuna, and surviving members of the strike force. Reporters from every species documented the moment. But Jinho wasn't thinking about history or legacy. He was thinking about a young analyst who had stood beside him when no one else believed, who had volunteered for a suicide mission without telling his best friend, who had died making sure the weapon reached its target. Counselor Vexthar approached, moving slowly. The old warrior had fought in the final battles despite his age, earning scars he would carry for the rest of his life. "Your people lost much," Vexthar said, "but you gained something too. The respect of the entire galaxy. The knowledge that you were right when everyone else was wrong." "Is that supposed to make the losses worthwhile?" Jinho asked. "No," Vexthar replied honestly. "Nothing makes such losses worthwhile. But perhaps they give them meaning. Taiho Shin died so billions could live. That is not nothing." Jinho nodded slowly. He would have said it was worth it. He believed in protecting people, even ones who didn't deserve it. "Then he was truly human," Vexthar said, "and the galaxy is better for having known his kind." The ceremony ended. People dispersed to begin the long work of rebuilding. But Jinho remained, standing before the monument as the artificial day dimmed to evening. Hana joined him after everyone else had left. "We did what we set out to do. We warned them. We saved them." "At such cost," Jinho said. "Yes, but the alternative was everyone dying, including us." She looked up at the monument. "We'll never forget them, and the galaxy won't either. Every ship that travels safely, every world that rebuilds, every child born into peace, they owe that to the ones who fought. To the ones who weren't afraid to stand alone," Jinho added. "To humanity," Hana agreed. They stood together in silence, remembering the fallen, honoring the survivors, and hoping that the galaxy had learned its lesson. That next time someone raised a warning, someone pointed to danger on the horizon, they would be heard, they would be believed, and perhaps, next time, the galaxy would act before the last moment.